Okay, this is lesson 1.4, operations with fractions, and in this case we're going to take a look at subtraction. So subtraction and addition are fairly similar in your processes in that you're going to go ahead and start with your denominators, the 4 and the 3, and you'll go ahead and do the multiples. So 4 times 1 is 2, 4 times 1 is 4, 2 times 4 is 8, 3 times 4 is 12, and then we'll do the 3's. 3 times 1 is 3, 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 4 is also 12. So we just go down the list until they match. So you might, go a little bit farther or whatever, but until you find a matching number, that's when you can stop. And then the process is going to be the same as what we did on the previous page. If I look at the denominator with the 4, the third one down, 1, 2, 3, that's where I got the 12, so you're going to multiply the top and bottom by 3. So what that winds up doing is we take this here and we're going to split it into thirds, into 3 pieces. So this one piece we cut up and it becomes 3 pieces, 1, 2, 3. And then we do the other pieces into thirds, and now we have a total of 12 pieces, just like on the front end. So 3 times 1 is 3, that's our 3 actual pieces we have, and then 4 times 3 is all these pieces, the total number, which is 12. Now for this, I didn't draw a second circle because we are taking away from this one. So for this one, we're going to wind up with, we'll go ahead and multiply the top and bottom by 4. And so 1 times 4 is 4, and 4 times 3 is 12. And so what we want to do is take 4 pieces away from whatever's here. But the one thing you'll notice, there's only 3 pieces. So this kind of brings an interesting situation. The denominator does not change when you add or subtract. It's still going to be 12. But the fact that I need to take away 4 pieces when there's only 3. So this becomes a war in the numerator, right? So I have positive 3, negative 4. Who wins the war? Well, negative 1 will. So if you take the 3 pieces away from this pie, you still need 1 more piece. So if you were to think of this as like you're working at a restaurant and there are 3 pieces of pie left, and the table you're serving has ordered 4 pieces. Well, you can take the 3 over, but you still need 1 more piece. So you're still shy, or you still need 1 more piece, and that's what that represents. All right, let's take a look at the next one. For the next one here, we're going to go ahead and we have 2 thirds minus 4 fifths. So I'm going to go ahead and do the 3 and the 5. So this would be 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. This would be 10 and then 15. And I showed you on the last video how to do this on your calculator. So I'm not going through those again. I know I'm going a little bit fast on that. But for this one, we're going to go 5 down, right? Here we're only going to go 3 down. And we'll take our first fraction, we'll multiply the top and bottom by 5, and that's going to give us 10 pieces out of 15. So if I take these 3 and I divide them up into 5s, we can see that there are 10 pieces here, and if I continue dividing this section by 5, that gives 15 total pieces. For the second one, you're going to have 4 fifths, and the 15 is the third one down, 1, 2, 3, so we're going to multiply top and bottom by 3, and so we get 12 fifteenths. All right, so we're going to have the same type of situation here. Here you have 10 pieces, you want to take 12 away, and I apologize, like these problems just happen to wind up having negative answers. That doesn't mean that's always going to happen this way. But in this case, you do wind up needing 2 more pieces, right? There's 10 pieces there. If you take 12, that means you still need 2 more pieces out of your 15. And so that winds up being your answer there. All right, let's take a look at the last one. For the last one here, we have our 4 and our 2. These are just full pies, right? There's 4, there's 2, And then we have a pi that's 1/2, and we have a pi that is 1/5. Right? So we have a 1/2, and you're going to take 1/5 away. I guess I haven't been drawing the second pi, so we'll just look at this one. So for this one, if I want to take 2 and 1/5 pi's away, well, from these 4 pi's, right, I can take out 2 pi's. My whole number out front is just a 2. But what about these? So we're going to do our list. Here's our 2 and our 5. This is going to be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and that's going to be 10. Right? So when we look at our first fraction of 1/2, I need to make this 2 into a 10. That is the 5th one down. So we're going to multiply top and bottom by 5. That gives you 5/10. Once again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces here. There's your 5 up top. That's how many you have. And if I cut up this side as well, we have 5 more pieces, a total of 10. Minus, and then to make 5 into a 10, we only had to go 2 down, right? So we multiplied top and bottom by 2. I apologize. No, this is right. This is right. Sorry. Minus, and then we have the 1/5 times 2, top and bottom. So 2 to the top, right? That one piece becomes 2. Those total 5 pieces become 10. And we do have the same denominator now. So here's just 5 minus 2, which is 3. So if there were 4.5 pi's in the kitchen, and you needed to serve your table 2 pi's and then a 1/5 slice pie, that means there would still be 2 pi's and 3/10 of a pie left in the kitchen. And then for the last part, I am going to run through this again on a calculator. So for this one here, if I have my 1/4, so 1 over 4, arrow over to the right, minus, fraction key again, 1 over 3. And you should get a negative 1/12, just like we got. And so, and I hope you're going through this on a calculator as you're watching the video, or you take the opportunity to do this when you get to class, borrow a calculator and work these problems, just to make sure you have the calculator stuff down, because we will be practicing that and quizzing on that we can find these answers with the calculator. I mean, I'm showing you how to do them by hand, and there are some programs that you might go into after you finish at the Excel Center that will require you to maybe test. A good example would be the Army. If the ASVAB test, there's no calculator on the math portion. So I want to make sure you've been instructed on how to do it without a calculator, but absolutely you should know how to do it with a calculator, because if you're going to do this in a job or something like that, you're not going to be restricted and people aren't going to tell you you can't use a calculator. So I want to make sure you can do both. So I have entered the second one, and that does confirm my negative 2/15. And then just like with the last one on the previous lesson with mixed numbers, you do the second button, and then the fraction button to get that mixed fraction, so we can put the 4 and 1/2 in the first one, minus second fraction button, the 2, arrow over, and 1/5, arrow down, and over. And that will give you your 2 and 3/10, except, once again, it always gives mixed, or improper. And we want to change that to mixed. And so, what's better, improper or mixed? Well, it depends on the situation. If we want context, if you want to know like how much a value is, mixed is almost always better. If you said, oh, there's 22/10 of pie in the kitchen, people would look at you weird. But if they said, hey, there's 2 and 3/10 of pie, then that makes a little more sense. So whenever we're trying to express the quantity, how much is there, you would do this. There are times when you would use this in math, and that's when we get into multiplication division, we'll talk more about that. All right, so I want to convert that again. So second, and then we hit this button that's right next to the fraction button. So this one right here, right next to the fraction button. So you hit second, and then that button, and that gives you that conversion to an improper, or to a mixed fraction, which is your 2 and 3/10. All right, that is part 2 of this lesson. Please continue on to part 3, which is going to be on multiplication.